Hey there, my name is Matt. I am the founder of StorkSupply, which is essentially a baby equipment rental and leasing platform. You can think of it as rent the runway for baby gear. Essentially, an e-commerce business that is centered around rentals and leasing and eventually subscriptions of baby equipment. So we sort of scour the world for best in class products and then offer them to our customers on a rental basis as opposed to an acquisition or purchase basis. So we do this for a few reasons. It's essentially to make parents' lives easier, but we also save them money and generally make things easier at every step in the process. We also offer white glove delivery, or at least we did in pre-COVID times. Now it's all contactless, but the whole concept and mission behind the business is to make parents' lives easier and help them get the best baby gear available without the costs and hassles associated with ownership.
Right. So what was it exactly kind of led you to kind of this idea and this venture, and maybe a little bit about your background? Like, how did you arrive at this one?
Yeah, so the concept or the idea behind the business came to me when I was first starting my parenting journey. So my wife and I, we have two kids now, but when we were getting ready for baby number one, we were sort of going through the usual routine of sort of figuring out what we were going to need to help keep our baby safe, happy, and healthy. And it's a long list, and it's generally fairly expensive stuff. So as we're going through it, there was a lot of stuff that we noticed that we also weren't going to be keeping for very long. Some of it by default, some of it by choice, but generally speaking, you're only keeping a lot of this stuff or using it for 3, maybe 6 months. And so it just seemed crazy to me that there wasn't a rental option available in the market, considering the way the on-demand and sharing economies had been sort of booming in other sectors. It just didn't make sense that there wasn't anything, and I thought, I've always been sort of looking for an opportunity, and I thought this was the one that was worth taking a leap for, because it was right up my alley. It's it's a problem that I feel passionate is an important one to be solved, and so that's what keeps me going, and that's what's exciting about it for me.
Coming into your experience with Founder Institute and the program, and I'm curious to hear kind of what was the state of Stork Supply like as you kind of came into the program, and give me a little bit of like a before and after of what that looked like.
Yeah, so I started the business not necessarily with the intention of building a sort of venture scale company. I worked on it for about 6 months before that specific thinking changed. I saw a much bigger opportunity than I originally envisioned, and so I thought that it would be worthwhile to sort of go down the startup path as opposed to sort of the small business path. And I was new to the startup ecosystem, so I wanted to meet people and get feedback on whether or not the business actually could work in sort of a venture environment or startup environment, and so that's one of the things that drew me to Founder Institute. It's a program that would help test the sort of theory and assumptions behind the business and introduce me to people in the ecosystem, and sort of the mentor driven aspect of the program is the thing that sort of was most attractive, because I know you don't need to know people to get things done in this sort of an environment, and that's exactly what I wanted to do, and that's what I did. So I went through the program, got to meet a lot of really interesting people, not just the founders, but also the mentors and the people leading the program, and all were super, super helpful. And I've now got this great network of people that I can call on whenever I have questions, problems, or challenges, and provided intros to investors and any number of things that I just wouldn't have had if I hadn't gone through the program.
It is it is definitely one of the things that we see with Founder Institute companies is that they come in with fairly basic and fairly rudimentary ideas, but they kind of get stress tested and get put through the ringer of constant weekly pitches and constant weekly iterations and challenging the idea and often radically changing the idea. Do you found that there was a lot of radical change in kind of the format or the form of the idea from the beginning to the start? Oh, sorry, from the beginning to the end. Sorry, yeah.
I wouldn't say there were radical changes, but there were important adjustments and tweaks and perspectives that really helped sort of shape the way I think about the business and how to take it from sort of where it was to where it is to where it's going to be. And I'm still sort of working on that where it's going to be a bit, of course. But yeah, I mean, the feedback in the pitches, I mean, everyone's really blunt, but blunt in a good way, about what they think about the prospects of success for your business, and helpful in providing suggestions and making adjustments, as I said, to not only the way you present the business in pitch setting, but also the fundamentals of the business model, like how you're making money, what else you should be thinking about or doing in order to to really make things work. That happens week in, week out with the mentors. It happens with your classmates and people that you're doing group work with. It's sort of nonstop feedback, iteration, and improvement on the business.
Speaking of that kind of business model, given kind of the current crisis and current situation that a lot of companies are finding themselves in, like everybody's model has kind of been thrown to the wind or seemingly been thrown to the wind, and things are very much in flux. What's the effect of COVID and the current crisis kind of had on StorkSupply? Being a physical-based business, physical products, physical warehousing, delivering to people's homes, especially ones with young families who are concerned about the well-being of their kids and health and infection risks and all that.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of an interesting spot there. Tell me a bit about like what's that been like?
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly made some adjustments. So, we're very careful about the cleaning process in between uses. So that was never really a concern. We sort of doubled back to make sure that everything we were doing along those lines was sort of by the books and doing what we need to do to make sure that everybody's safe, and we're obviously not spreading COVID or any other sort of germs that may affect the health of our customers or their families. So that part hasn't changed much. What has changed is essentially the delivery system. So part of our service in helping make people's lives easier was we would literally bring equipment into people's homes, set it up for them, answer their questions about the equipment that they were renting from us, and that's not an option anymore. Everything is contactless, so we're doing drop-offs on porches and with concierge in condominiums, and it's actually opened up some opportunities for us. Since those white glove delivery services aren't an option anymore, we are now looking at shipping services and whether or not we can expand our geographic footprint by shipping things as opposed to actually physically delivering them. So that's still a work in process, but that's kind of the biggest change, or at least biggest sort of shock to the system that we work in, that has occurred because of COVID-19.
Yeah, absolutely. And going on from here, I mean, we're obviously all kind of guessing a little bit in terms of what is going to happen going forward. And it's interesting to hear that because this is something that we're seeing as a trend amongst a lot of companies at the moment, is that some things are changing radically, some things are not really changing at all. So as you mentioned, the infection risk, you were already concerned about making sure that there weren't any infections between uses of this, it's kids equipment. It was very, very, very safety and health conscious, obviously, and so there's this large emphasis already there. So, out of the things that change radically, maybe some things, and that varies between companies, and then some companies not much really does change. But what's next? Where do you see? With that being said, we're all kind of guessing a little bit, at least, in terms of what happens next, and all feel a bit like we're in uncharted territory. So what does that look like for you and StorkSupply?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question because the news is coming so fast and furious that it's hard to sort of hone in on really the key issues that will sort of guide the direction of the company moving forward. I've shifted a few times from everything needs to be thrown out the window to maybe what we're doing isn't that far off from where we need to be going, and so I think the biggest change for us will just be really just getting a little bit better at what we're currently doing, and making it bigger and better, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. I think there are actually advantages to a rental system as opposed to the way things are currently done with generally acquisition or consumption-based systems. And that is that, with StorkSupply, it's a closed system, so we may be able to continue on and actually be a better, more efficient and cleaner way to get baby equipment than any of the other alternatives. So, there really is a lot that we need to figure out and how to get there and grow. But, I think in terms of sort of setting our expectations, I'm assuming that we're not going to be going into people's homes and setting things up for, the next 12 to 18 months at least. And so that really does shape the way you think about the business and how things are done. And I think it also makes you think a little bit deeper about the digital experience and how you're going to develop that and make that a little bit more seamless and robust, because a lot more is depending on that other than the sort of physical interaction that you once had.
Right. Yeah. Fantastic. So it's great to hear that there are, that it's not all kind of doom and gloom for all companies. I mean, obviously, a lot of people are hurting really badly at the moment, but it is, it is good to see that there are some silver linings in some of these situations. But in terms of getting a hold of you, in terms of checking out StorkSupply, where can people find you?
Yeah, so the website is StorkSupply.ca. I can be reached. My name is Matt, M-A-T-T, at StorkSupply.ca. That's sort of the easiest way to get in touch with me. I am on Twitter, but not super active. And yeah, I think email is probably the best way to go for that. And you can also obviously check out the website, or Instagram is our most active channel on social. It's at StorkSupply. And that's where we are.
Great, fantastic. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Matt, and I will see you probably at one of the alumni meets.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Ben.
All right. Thanks a lot, Matt. See ya.